protect your network, okay, in order to really protect your network, you need to follow a standard, okay? And the standard, like the one that we have here, just let me share the proper screen, the proper this over here, okay? We have some, we can close this one over here. We can close this one, and really focus on this one. Okay, sorry, seems like I have already closed the. Yes, okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go quickly here to cover what we have already, or recap about what we have already covered last few days. Okay, guys, and we mentioned that we already covered this part when we talked the last few days, or last week specifically. We talked in order to protect your network, you need really to you need to discover every single assets in your network. So this is will be including your network devices, your hardware devices, your application running in your operating systems, okay, your communication links, your printers, scanners. So in order to protect the way that we started this conversation is all about in order to protect your network, okay, you need really to understand what assets you have within your network, okay? So we said that our network consists of so many components, okay? We have some servers, and this server will include operating system, applications, okay? And the servers also are connected to networks, okay? And networks are connected to the internet. And that is what opens the door for external attacks, okay? So in the last few days, we were talking about how to really configure, how really to protect your server, operating systems, and your computers, okay, guys? So this is the first thing. So you need to implement asset management. You need to discover every single asset within your environment, okay? And also you need to understand your business environment. What we mean by business environment, you need to understand which assets is important for your business and which assets is critical, and what is the impact if one of these assets is not available. Okay, so for example, let's say that I have a very important database server, okay? Why this server is important, okay? You as an IT, or you as a network engineer, or you as an information security engineer, you don't really know how important is this server. So how can you know the importance and the criticality and the impact of these servers is by going and talking to the business and understanding how this server is really impacting the business. Okay, so maybe this servers, if this is a servers where we have all our clients and our client database is there, okay? And if we lose this database, we will not be able to communicate with the clients, and we will not be able to place a new orders. So now, after you interview the management and the teams, okay, you understand how critical is the server. So later on, you can implement security in a much better way, because now you can put some priority for this server, okay? And later on, if you wanted to implement redundancy or implement a recovery options, you will put this server in the first list, because you know this how important is the server. So we talked about assets. You need to discover all the assets. You can do the discovery, guys, by automated way and also by manual way. Sometimes we have tools to automate the asset discovery, and sometimes we really need to figure out what we have in our environment. I will give you an example for asset discovery. So in a very small organization, you can really tell how many desktop computers you have, how many printers you have, and how many servers you have, and how many application running in each computer. So easily you can tell this in a small organization. But with a large organization, we have thousands of computers, okay, and you have thousands of servers. You cannot do this by manual ways. It's gonna take you forever, okay, and you're gonna miss some important assets. So in these cases, we use assets management system that it will be able to discover the network, and it will really help us to have a visual about this network. And again, the most important thing you need to remember about asset discovery is what? Is you cannot really protect what you cannot see or visualize or feel. Okay, so you cannot really tell if you don't have a full network topology, okay, what kind of routers I have here, okay, how many servers are connected to this router, how many servers are connected to this switch, okay, how many switches we have in our organization. So if you don't really have a visual how your network looks like, you will not be able to protect it. And that's why, guys, you studied really in the first week or even in the boot camp week, something called network topology. You guys do remember what is topology is all about? Okay, topology is about the layout of your network, right? The layout of your network. Why the layout of your network is important? Because it will help you to do two things, okay? Exactly, star or mesh, all this topology. Why is the network topology is important, guys? Because it's gonna help you guys, or Shaza, as Shaza said, it's like a bus also, but bus is an old topology. You will not find a lot of bus, but the most common topology that exists right now is the star topology, where you have a center device like a switch or a router, and you will have all the devices connected to this device. So the most, if you are in an interview and they will ask you what is the most common topology for a network, okay, it's gonna be a star, okay? And why a star? Because we are relying in switches and routers to really communicate right now. Okay, guys? So again, why topology is important? Because topology will help you to understand what network devices you have in your organization, okay? It will help also, it will help in troubleshooting issues. So if you have an issue with your network, if you have a proper current new updated topology, it will can tell you where is the issues coming from. So topology is important. If you guys never seen network topology, it looks like something like this. Okay, if you guys wanted to see a real network topology, I will just give you a diagram, because I keep saying topology, because why I'm emphasizing about network topology, guys, because today we are talking about secure network devices. So this is the regular topology. But if you look at like an organization topology, I just wanted to show you, it will be looks like something similar to this one. Okay, let me just clear the screen so you guys can see it. Okay. Okay, it will look like this. Can you guys see my screen over here? This area?
Yes, it's clear.
Yes.
Okay, so in reality, you will find so many computers are connected to switches. Some of these computers are connected to switches, and this switches is connected to multi-layer switch, and this multi-layer switch is connected to the internet. So this is the real topology. And that is what important, because it will help you to troubleshooting issue in the network, and it also it will help you to protect the network, okay? If you can see this network, okay, you can see, okay, you know what? I have here, okay, it says Naif start topology. If one PC down, the rest will not be affected. Okay, well, mashallah. Naif is saying also what is the advantage of having a star. Okay, but again, Naif, I will tell you what is the disadvantage. The disadvantage, if I have one device here, like a hub or a switch, okay, and it's a single point of failure, it's only one switch we are connected to, and this switch went down, it will take the entire star also down. So I just by looking to your network topology, you can tell where is the single point of failure, okay? And you didn't really want to single point of failure in your network. Why? Because one device is down, it will take the entire network down. And that's why looking at the topology even from security perspective is good, because you can tell, oh, this is a single point of failure because all these computers are connected to one point. Okay, so how can I make sure that my network is redundant and my network will be available? So I will buy two switches, and I will have between the two switches some protocols. So if one of the switches is down, the other switch will be up and I will be notified. So this is all of this you can really learn from topology. And again, why I'm explaining on multi switches, like two switches that's connected back to back. Why I'm explaining this is all about topology, because today we're looking at the secure network design. So we need to understand the topology, we need to understand the protocol, we need to understand how computers are connected to each other in order really to protect the computer. So we back to our lecture again here, guys. Okay, and we mentioned also last week, we talked about risk assessment and what is the risk assessment is all about. So can someone tell me what is risk assessment is all about?
To scan the system for vulnerabilities and
Exactly.
like like assign scores for it,
Okay,
to
perfect.
to get back to it and see what's important to to start with, and what we can like false like negative, or negative positive, or the other two. So we have to do it or not, or things we have to research for it more, or things we needed to still like have like it's vulnerable, but we still we need it. So we reduce the risk there, like trying to like put security measurements there more.
Okay, mashallah. Thank you, Faisal. And impact of risk. Very good. So Shaza and Faisal, they give me the answer that I was looking for. First of all, the risk is the probability or likelihood of one of the threats to exploit one of our vulnerability and cause an impact. This is a very simple definition for risk. So the probability of threats that's exploiting a vulnerability in one of our assets and causing an impact. So I have to start when we talk to risk to implement something called risk register, which is basically I will add the assets here in the first column. So what assets I have? Okay, let's say I have a switch, router, server, okay, maybe a database, or maybe a system that I'm using for attendance. Okay, so this is all of this is an asset. Okay, what is the vulnerability in this asset? So this is where the thing that I told you about it, you need to figure out who you are and what is your weak points. You remember? So we do vulnerability scanner, okay, or we do scanning for vulnerability. So we can figure out what vulnerability exists in our environment or specifically to this assets. Once we understand the vulnerability and come up with a CVE score, okay, if we have a CVE, okay, and we mentioned the CVE score is basically telling you how dangerous is this vulnerability is. Is this vulnerability can cause you issues with confidentiality, integrity, availability? Is this vulnerability easily can be exploited by someone who's not really high skilled an attacker? Is this vulnerability can be exploited remotely, not even within your network? So all of this will increase the CVE score. Once the CVE score is high and you have assets, which is you already talked about the management, and the management told you it's a critical system, it will cause a huge impact on us, okay? And this vulnerability can be exploited remotely. That's mean any attacker out there can see this vulnerability and will be able to exploit it. This will give a high risk for our vulnerability. And the way that we manage to give a score for the risk, it could be just from a scale from 1 to 10. And accordingly, so if we give this vulnerability 9, okay, that means this is a high vulnerability that we need to go and talk to the management about it and take the proper decision to really mitigate the risk or to reduce the risk. And that's what takes us to the risk management. And we talked about risk management strategy and what kind of risk management strategy we have. We mentioned there are 4 risk management strategies, and the one that we like and the one that we really enjoy is basically mitigation the risk or reducing the risk to the acceptable level. And we have risk avoidance, we have risk acceptance, and we have also risk. What is the first one? Risk mitigation, risk avoidance, risk acceptance, and last one that's always Shaza, I think.
Transfer.
Risk, okay, first I got it, okay? So the last one is risk transfer, okay? So basically when we said reduction, okay, or reduction means that we need to mitigate the risk. Okay, mitigate the risk means, guys, can you put me in mute, please? I think one of you guys have his mic or her mic on. Okay, so we said if we decided to do risk mitigation, okay, or risk reductions, okay, if we decided to do risk mitigation or risk reductions, it means that I will implement something called, in order to reduce the risk,
controls.
okay, bravo. Who said controls?
Lamia.
Lamia, bravo, Lamia. Okay, so in order to reduce the risk, we need controls. Okay, we need to implement controls. What kind of controls we have as an organizations? Okay,
Technical,
Physical.
managerial.
Three controls,
MashaAllah.
physical controls and
Physical.
Okay, I like what I hear right now. Now you are, guys, you are putting your legs really, you're putting your feet in the right directions to be in an interview and answers. Okay, because again, what is your main job in any company you're gonna work for, or any government institution you're gonna work for, is to mitigate the risk of cyber attacks. This is what they're gonna hire you for this. So you are there to protect their information assets and really reduce the risk to the acceptable level. Okay, how you can reduce the risk? By implementing controls. Okay, what kind of control? Physical, technical, managerial. Okay, exactly. Of course, Naif. Exactly. Risk. Naif is mentioning here in the chat that's risk avoidance. Okay, guys, can someone really tell me who is in? Someone has already. Haya, can you put me in the mute, Haya? Haya.
I think if you are the host, you can close or mute here.
Okay, I'm muted here, but it's like I think it's better also to hear. Okay, so I'm muted here. No worries. Okay, so again, guys, let's go back to this physical controls. Okay, technical controls. Okay, and managerial controls. Can you give me an example for each one of these? Okay, physical control, managerial controls.
Managerial control, like policies that applied through the management team to, you know, like to see, you know, like just to make awareness and how to use, you know, like things and how to, you know, like things done, but it's not gonna enforce it unless we have technical controls to, you know, like enforce these managerial controls.
Okay, perfect. I like your answer, Chris. This is perfect answer. So managerial controls could be training, awareness training, policies, procedures that the management will really develop to show the intentions according to specific issues within the organization. For example, I can have a policy for passwords. Okay, I can have a policy for bring your own device. Okay, I can have policies for how certain traffic will be prohibited during the working hours, like social medias and all this stuff. I can have a policy, okay, for how to use a mobile within the organization. So this is all shows the intentions, okay, for what management wanted to be able to the organization to do. Because if I don't, for example, if I don't, I will let everyone to use the computer at work, to use social media, I can guarantee you 60% out of 100% of the employees will be browsing Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, I don't know, you name it, okay, during the working hours. Then this is not acceptable, because this is gonna impact my productivity as a company. If people are really busy with social media, they will not be able to produce, they are not gonna be able to work, they will gonna cause me issues. This is from management perspective. So management will say, okay, you know what? I don't want any traffic for social media during working hours. So from 9 to 5, social media traffic should be prohibited. Accessing any social media website is prohibited. Okay, so this is what the management will say. Okay, and again, as Shaza said, the implementation is the technical control. Okay, we need to implement this. We need to enforce our management decision. Okay, and this is where you come as a technical person and say, you know what, there is a solution to enforce the technical the policies inside the organization by implementing web filtering. So we can filter certain traffic, so it will be allowed, and some other traffic will be prohibited or will be denied. Okay, guys. So management decision and technical controls goes hand to hand. Okay, management first to say the direction of the organization or the intent for the organization, and the technical teams will implement this technical or policies. Okay, guys, and that's why when you have someone coming from outside to audit your system or to see how secure your system is, okay, they will never go first and check the technical control. Okay, they will check the technical control, but the first thing an auditor or someone coming from outside and wanted to check how secure is your environment is going and asking you, where is the policies here? What is the policies? Because if we don't have policies, anyone inside the organization can do whatever he wants. So always you need to have your policies over there written in a very clear format, and all your employees knows about it, and then you have a technical control that implement. Okay. Yes, Hanouf is asking very good question. Is saying that some of the organization, okay, can ask someone who works for them to not disclose what is his job, right? Yes, that is definitely we can do this. Why? I'll tell you why. Okay, you can, guys, if you looked online right now, okay, and especially in LinkedIn, sometimes you find a person, he's saying in his job title, I work for a company called Confidential. Okay, what is confidential? That he doesn't want to disclose where he's working at or where he's working. Why? Because basically there's a lot of social engineering over there in the wild. They can really hunt for these guys online, and then they can follow him, and then maybe they can target him by a phishing attacks. Okay, or another thing, if this guy said I'm working for this institution, let's say I'm working for military. Okay, you know what an attacker can do? Usually in your job description, you will type what kind of system you are dealing with. Okay, what kind of Windows you are dealing with, what kind of Linux system you're dealing with, what kind of network switches you see. So an attacker who wanted to really attack the military base, okay, they will say, okay, let us, oh, this guy over here work for this military base. Let me see what kind of system he has, and then accordingly, will be enough information for me to start to target this military base. So some of the organization now are informing exactly. So basically, I'm trying to limit my footprint online. What is my footprint is every single thing that is really not necessary to be online. So if someone is like working for a military institution, why do I have to put my full name, where I'm working at, okay, what kind of system I'm using day to day? This is a lot of information for attacker to can use later on to target you or target your organization. That's why you find a lot of organization now, even when they announce for a new job post, they will not tell you where you're gonna work, okay, or which company you're gonna work. They will say that it's a confidential, and we need this kind of requirements. We need someone who knows how to work with Windows 2019. We need someone who can work with Cisco switches. We need someone who can work with a firewall with Palo Alto. Because if they said here, instead of confidential, they said the name of the organization over here, you will definitely know that they are using Windows 2019, they're using Palo Alto firewall, they will have Cisco switches. So that would be enough for the attacker to start to look for a vulnerability in one of these platforms. So that's why also announcing where you work or what kind of job description. And that's why I'm telling you, security right now is getting involved in every single area. So even in HR posting, okay, security team need to go and approve if this is a security is secure enough to announce or not. Okay, so I hope this is also clarifies this point. So we mentioned that the control itself, guys, from the nature of controls, we said the technical control. If we have technical control, it can be divided to so many categories. Okay, if you have technical control, some of these control could be preventive controls. Okay, this is preventive, and some of these controls could be corrective controls, and some of these controls could be deductive controls. Okay, and also we mentioned there's one of the controls called compensating controls, CO. Okay, so what is the difference between preventive and corrective, deductive, and compensating? Okay, because this is where you will apply your knowledge, and this is what I told you before, that NIST standard, they build their framework according to this accordingly. Okay, you're gonna implement controls. So this control is gonna be either protection control or preventive control, or either detection controls, okay, or responding to a controls and recovering. So this is really representing what you have when it comes to technical control. So NIST saying, okay, you need first of all to try your best to prevent attackers to really get into your network or onto your system. Okay. Okay, perfect. This is nice. So preventive control like a firewall. Okay, so as I mentioned to you guys, preventive control, we need to remember that control really has to do something with some stuff that I explained yesterday, which is a timeline for attack. Timeline of attack, before the attack, we have before, okay, okay, during the attack, during someone attacking your system, and lastly, after the attack. So after, before, during, okay? And this is exactly how NIST also, they implemented their strategy. They say before the attack, try to implement preventive control, okay? During the attack, try to implement deductive controls. So you can detect whatever is happening right now, okay? And once the attack you detect it, you start to implement your corrective controls. And that is how it works. So I try my best to prevent someone to really exploit my network. If I couldn't really prevent him because this guy was really good, or maybe he used social engineering to get someone inside the organization to do something malicious, okay, at least I will have deductive controls to detect this malicious activity. Because I'm telling you, once you are online, okay, once you connect your server online or anything to the internet, you are exposed for an attack, 100%. There is no doubts about it, okay? The difference is, and I'm quoting someone from Cisco who said that, okay, there is a companies, they know that there is a companies, they are hacked, but they know they are hacked, and they are working to make their system more, you know, secure. And there is companies, they are hacked, but they don't know they are hacked. Why? Because they failed to detect the attack and failed to respond to the attacks, okay? And no one is too big, okay? So we've seen Uber, and Uber is really hiring the best maybe engineers when it comes to cybersecurity in the world, okay? Facebook, also a company based as a software, and it's been hacked so many times, okay? Aramco, you name the organization and I will tell you when it's been hacked, okay? Microsoft, so many times, okay? And until now they are hacked, okay? But it's not in a big scale. I will not the whole the entire Microsoft is hacked. I will tell you their operating system has been many times been hacked. So don't tell me, okay, you know what, I have maybe a factory of chocolates, okay, that's it's connected to the internet, but who's gonna hack this factory of chocolates? I can tell you there is so many hacks that's happened before. They are attacking the sweets and manufacturing who is producing chocolates. Okay, so don't tell me, oh, my organization will not be hacked because we don't know anything. We don't do anything with money. I'll tell you, even this, you can be hacked. As long as you connect yourself to the internet, you are always susceptible for attacks from outside. Okay, Naif is saying that most of the attacks is happening from inside the organization. This could be a debate. Okay, there is some magazine are saying 60% of the attacks coming from outside, 40 is coming from inside. Okay, another magazine, they saying it's actually more from outside than inside. Okay, but again, I will tell you something also, Naif, it will help you in this. If I do in HR, there's something called proper screening, or before they hire you, they need to do background check on you. Okay, they need to really knows who you are. They need to check your criminal record, and this is all part of security, by the way. So if you open a security, okay, your criminal record, okay, what kind of criminal activities you done in the past. Okay, so if they found out and that is mandatory, in Europe and the US, mandatory, you are really, if they found that you are convicted before in a computer crime, okay, do you think I should hire you within our IT department? No way. Okay, so HR is playing in a very high rules when it comes to hiring and firing process, when it comes also to secure your network or to secure your organization. If I have someone who has really a background of being, a cybersecurity engineer, but he applied for a completely different rule and wasn't in my organization, okay, and he's been acceptable. So this is something suspicious. If I have someone who used to work, for example, for Samsung, and now he's applying for a job in Apple, this could happen. But you really need to know what kind of person you are hiring, because maybe this guy is just someone who's gonna work for your organization, gather some intelligence and some information, and then pass it back to his original company. So a screening is gonna help us really definitely to eliminate the insider attacks. But the insider attacks cannot be eliminated 100%. So this is just to tell you about this. Okay, guys. So we talked about also last week, we talked about identity and access management and data security. And we already explained what is this all about. Identity and access management is basically, in order for system to be secure, okay, I need to make sure who is accessing my system, okay, what permission they have in this system, okay, and I should be able to hold them accountable for anything they do in this system. And that's why what we have established by access and control. So the first thing you do for any information system within your organization is to implement IEEE. IEEE is all about identification, authentication, authorization, okay, and finally, accountability. You guys agree? Okay.
Yes.
Any question about this? This is what we discovered. We already covered last week. So we talked about identification and authentication, and we mentioned that there is so many ways to authenticate, like something something you have, multi-factor authentication, 3-factor authentication. I give you an example for it. Okay, so I wanted you guys, when you have a system, and this system, for example, an HR system, or maybe a finance system, okay, the first thing that the user will see here before they enter the system, it should be establishing identification and authentication, okay? And according how critical is this system, okay, how it's been exposed to the external world, you need to implement different type of authentication. So for example, if I have a system internally, only my finance team is gonna able to access, okay, I can really enforce, identification and password, username and password, okay? But if this system, they can access it from outside, so anyone on the internet really can access the system, I really need to enforce multi-factor authentication. Why? Because I don't want someone to really from outside to steal a username and password, or maybe a guest username and password, and able to really get to this finance system. So according to the system criticality, according to the system position within our network, we can decide what kind of identification and authentication is required. Okay, I will give you an example that during the COVID-19, a lot of companies, they used to have a system inside that only can be accessed from inside, but because the situation of COVID, they had to maybe move it to the cloud. Okay, so they moved it to the cloud. So employees from home, they can reach the cloud and access it, or maybe they have really opened this system to accept access from external world. Okay, once you do this, your internal controls that you used for identification and for authentication is not very 100% secure when you really publicly put the server on the internet. Why? Because within your organization, you have better security controls. No one can really see the system. No one can really see the login screen. you can filtering the packet that's coming from outside, so they cannot really see the system. But once it's open for the public, now everyone can see, now everyone can scan, now everyone can brute force the username and password, try to get inside the system by brute forcing. So now you need to implement different measures when it comes to security. Okay. Lastly, we yesterday also in identification and access management, we said, khalas, the user is already managed to authenticate himself and managed to be in the system. What kind of permission, okay, the user have in the system? And that's why we yesterday we talked about access control models or authorization access control. Okay, and we talked there is 4 models. Actually, there are 3, but we call them 4. Okay, because the rule access control is different. So we mentioned that we have something called rule access control. So it according to the rule within the organization, you will be able to assign rules to a different groups, and then assign the groups to certain permission, so it accesses different resources. We mentioned there is MAC, mandatory access control, and discretionary access control. So this is all the stuff that we already mentioned yesterday. Okay, and we said there is also one complementary access control model, which is rules access control with you. Okay, so far so good, guys. Any question about this topic so far?
Yes, it's good. Yeah.
All good. Okay, so
Nice.
okay, in mandatory access control, the only difference, as I mentioned, there is you need a secure system, and the secure system will allow the administrator to add labels. Okay, and labels each type of traffic you have, each assets or each file you have, to give different labels. And according to the user clearance, he will be able to access this assets. So if I have top secret assets, okay, in top secret assets, I need someone with a top secret clearance, okay, to really view these assets. One thing that I didn't really mention yesterday, and I would like to mention today, because we didn't have the time to mention it, is basically, okay, maybe you have top secret clearance, okay, and the assets here, guys, does have also top secret clearance. So in a logically format, this guy, okay, will be able to see these assets, right? Okay, but there is also one thing that they implement in military. It's called the need to know. The need to know, okay, and this is one of the principle of security. The need to know principle. The need to know, maybe this guy is a top ranked officer in the army, and I have 2 files here. Both of them are top secrets, okay, but one is, for example, for Iran, one of the example for North Korea. These guys work closely with the intelligence of North Korea. So he will be able to access this file, okay? But then when he try to access the other file, because he doesn't have to do anything with Iran, okay, he cannot really access this file. Why? Because there is another principle is applied here. It's called the need to know. He doesn't really need to know what's happening in Iran, so I will block his access, okay? So even if he have a top secret clearance, but he does not have the need to know for these files, he will not be able to access. So I think this is, you will find it in the website, that if you guys looked at our website yesterday, you will find the principle of need to know. And the principle of need to know is going with the least privilege. Least privilege means he has the privilege here to access the top secret, okay? But he doesn't really need to access this file, even if he has the privilege to access it, but he doesn't really have the need to know. Okay, so at that time, I would block him from accessing the file. Okay, guys. So this is a point that I like it to highlight. And then today, what we will discuss today in our lecture today is data security. Okay, data security is a big topic. Okay, and in order to secure data, and what is cyber security, if you guys recall from the other lectures, cyber security is not all about securing the data only, but securing the network that's contained the data, securing the channel, the connectivity, communication channels that we use to transfer the data. So if I have a server here, okay, in order to implement cyber security, we need to ensure that this, let's say a server with a database, okay? And this server in the database is connected somehow with my network, like a switch over here. So this is gonna be my switch, okay? Okay, and maybe this switch is later on connected to a router, and then this router later on connected to the internet, okay? So in order to secure the data here, or to achieve cybersecurity, or to protect against cyber attacks, I also need to protect my routers here. I need to protect my switches here. I need to protect these cables, which is gonna be like a physical layer, okay, from attacks. Why? Because what is the logically way to attack your system is if the attacker here in the internet, the logic way is really for him to come through this internet link, try to compromise your router if he can. If he cannot if he cannot really compromise your router, he will seek it if he find a vulnerability in your switch. If he cannot really find your vulnerability in the switch, you know, he will try to use this link until he reaches the server. So in order really to protect our network, we need to understand how to protect our networks. And that's why when data security, it's important to really secure our networks. And that's why if you expanded data security, guys, in the protection phase in NIST, what you will find is, look at this. I have just got this from online. So this is the protection, data protection. And you can say that, okay, you need really to implement hardening that we already talked about yesterday. In the last part of the lecture yesterday, we talked about something called hardening. And what is hardening all about is to make your system more hard. How? By maybe disable all the unneeded accounts, disable all unneeded service, disable all the unneeded application, deleted, batch your server, install updates, and all this stuff. So this is all guidelines, okay, of how to make the server itself is very immune for attacks. And also we talked about database hardening, and we talked about how we can harden our database by encryption and all this stuff. Right after this, he talks about how to install firewall and what is the firewall policy. Okay, so this is a guideline, and this is including in data security. So now he jumped from the server itself, okay, to how to secure the network that is gonna bring the traffic from outside to our server. And that is logically, okay, because how an attacker will reach database? He's gonna come through the network. So I'm just gonna make sure that his live coming to my network, okay, is very hard. He will not be able to really reach my network. So this is by implementing controls over the network to really restrict the access from outside to inside. One of the really important thing to implement is firewall. Some of you guys mentioned today a very good example of consider the firewall as a bodyguard, that he's gonna wait in front of your network and waiting for people to check if they have an invitation to get in or no. Okay, so if he have an invitation that the IP traffic coming is really allowed to get in, it will allow this traffic to get in. If there is no invitation, if this traffic, the firewall doesn't know anything about it, it will deny the traffic to get in. So this is in a very simple way. And that will stop a lot of attacks. Okay, guys? So the first thing we will look at today is for our lecture today is basically how to secure our networks. So we need to look at the network design in the first place, and we need to really implement some controls to make the reaching to our very important assets is almost impossible. Okay, guys. So the first thing is I'm gonna overview with you is the TCP layers. We have already covered this before, but it's good to just look at it one more time. So if you guys can look at here, I told you this is OSI layer. It's just made for research. It's never been implemented. What is really implemented is TCP/IP. So what is the TCP/IP? And that is what we covered in the pre-bootcamp week. Is a way to communicate between two different systems. Okay, how we can communicate if this computer speaks Chinese and this computer speaks Japanese or English? They cannot communicate. Okay, if this computer is made from a vendor like IBM, this computer is made from a Dell. Okay, if this computer have a Linux operating system and this computer has Windows operating system, okay, how they will communicate? They need a common language. This common language is the TCP/IP. Is basically how to slice the data, how to segment the data, okay, and how to send it over a network using the IP address until it reaches the destination. So the TCP model is a model that explains how the data is moving from a layer to layer, okay, until it reaches the destination. So this will be your computer A and computer B. Okay, guys, and we talked about these layers, and we talked about there is a layer here called the physical layer. This is the cables and the fiber cables and maybe the wireless communication. We talked about the data link layer, okay, which is basically the MAC address and the physical address. We talked about the IP layer. We talked about the transport layer. And lastly, we talked about the application layer. So anyone have any issues with this, guys? So far, so good.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so far so good. Let's go back. And you guys remember also in the first pre-boot camp week, we talked about there is some devices that work in our network, like a hub and a switch and a router. And we explained what is the difference between each one of them. Okay, we said that the hub is the early beginning of the star topology, but the problem with hub, it's broadcasting the message to everyone. So everyone knows in your network knows about the message. So if this guy over here decided to even to talk to BC number 8, if we have hub, this message will be transferred to every single computer connected to the hub, which is not good when it comes to security. Okay, even including BC number 5. Okay, which is really bad when it comes to security. That's mean if one of these guys are really sniffing the line, he will be able to see every message has been sent to computer number 3. Okay, so we said this is not a good terminology, and that's why we don't see hub anymore. And then we move to a switches, which is more intelligent devices that can forward the MAC address, or sorry, can forward the frame based on source and destination. And we talked if this guy over here is wanted to communicate with this guys over here, number 3, the message will be only sent to number 3. It will never reach 5 or 4 or 2 or anyone else. Okay, guys? And we mentioned that routers is a device that routes data from one network to another network. So if I have computer here, number 3, okay, in I would say in this red device, let me make it all red. He wanted to really to talk to computer number 2 in the blue network here, okay. What he will do, he will send his traffic to the router, okay, and the router based on the IP address, because this is the main functionality of router, he will be able to really deliver the message to BC2. Okay, guys, so router will allow you to connect different networks, okay, and we allow to delivery of IP packets between different networks, while a hub or a switch will connect within one network and connect multiple devices to be only consisting one network. Okay, so far so good. Any questions in this, guys?
No.
This is basics of networks, okay? And we mentioned that also in order for the layer 3 to do their jobs, we have something called logical addresses, which is IP address, okay? And they're using something called routing protocols, okay? And the routing protocols is a technique. If we have so many routers, like for example, I have router like this, router here, like the internet, and router here, and router here, okay? And I need really to reach a very far network, how my packets will reach the destination. And I said we use something called routing protocol to route the data from one router to another router until it reach the destination. And that is also we need to know about. This is routing protocol. Okay, so routers, they use two things. First of all, they use logical addresses, so they don't care about physical address, which is your network address, your MAC address. And they also use a technique or a protocol to deliver a data from hub to hub until it reaches the destination, especially if the destination is maybe 15 routers away from you. So we need a technique to deliver the message from one to one. And this is examples over here of routing protocol. Taban, just to study routing protocol, guys, and you become really good in routing protocol, it's just a job. Okay, you will find sometimes they announce in the news, we need a network engineer who knows about routing and switching. Okay, and there is a big certification in Cisco called network routing and switching, and it's all about how to configure router and the switching within your organization to do to implement network and to implement multiple network connected to each other. So this is routing protocol. Here, layer 2. Okay, we mentioned that layer 2 is all about what? Physical addresses, MAC address. Where is the MAC address will be? In your network card. When the manufacturer first time create the network, he will create something specific or unique called the MAC address. And this MAC address is 14.8 bits, okay? And it will be printed on your network card. And we will use this to really sending frame between computers and computer within one network, okay? And this is what is MAC address is all about. And we mentioned what is the switches is all about, but I wanted to tell you that in layer 3, routers are located. In layer 2, we have switches located, okay? One thing that's behind the switches is VLANs. What is VLANs? Okay, and that is what we will keep it for after the break. We'll come back from the break and we talk about security, okay? And how to secure our networks, starting from the physical layer all the way to the application layer. Okay, guys? Is it time?
Okay.
Is it a good time to take a break now, or you wanted to continue? Good time to break, tea break
Break.
or coffee break?
Coffee break.
Okay, coffee break. So I will follow Nasiba. Yes, I'll give you guys 14 minutes. So we come back 10:15. So I'll see you.
Okay, Mr. Shadi, it's
Yes.
the VLAN, it's the virtual local area network.
Yes, virtual. We will explain what is virtual local area network. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's
Thank
a very
you.
important topic, and I will explain it to you today. Don't worry.
Yeah, because I heard about it and I noticed that it have the same. Yeah. Thank you.
No. I will explain this because it's very important when it comes to security today. We'll talk
Yeah.
about it. Okay, see you. To just go back up 2 slides, okay? If you guys recall, I have my TCP model, okay, started from physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, application layer. So in order to really protect a computer, guys, okay, I really need to protect everything. What we mean by this? Okay, how computers are communicating? Computers communicating by, let's say that you have already trying to access a website. So you will write in this URL the website you wanted to access. And this URL, we will add the TCP port, okay? And once we added the TCP port, we'll add the IP layer. Okay, once we added the IP layer, we'll add the MAC address layer. And then all your traffic will be in a wire or maybe a cable. And this cable will go all the way to the destination, okay? So in order to really protect the network, I need to protect the physical layer, this cable. I need to protect the MAC address layer, okay? So no one can spoof the MAC address and cause issues, and we'll explain this. No one can also cause any issues in the internet layer, and no one can cause an issue in the TCP layer, and no one can cause any issues when it comes to network, when it comes to the application layer, okay? Because the attackers are very smart. They will try every single means to reach you. So let's go to the point. Even I have seen before attacker, they will come here and they will cut the cable here and they will add a hub. And you know what will he do? He will access the hub from this point, okay? and fix your cable. So any signals that comes to the hub, it will be sent it to the attacker first, and then it will be then sent it to the destination. So they can do a lot of physical attacks. So let's say that I wanted to stop physical attacks. So first of all, when you go to any company, okay, what you will find in this company is, okay, some ports in the wall. I don't know if you have seen this before, but some ports in the wall, okay, that you can connect your laptop to. Okay, so this is a wall, and this is a port in the wall. Okay, and the port looks like the telephone port. If you have an old telephone port at home, go look at it. This is exactly how the companies will implement their ports and connection. And someone will bring his laptop, like here. This is the laptop. Okay, and what is this guys will do? He will get a cable and connect this computer to the board, and the board is basically connected to a switch. Or maybe there's some companies, they are really careless, or they are very small companies. So you go inside the companies, you can see their switch right away in your face. Okay, so if in both cases, if I have an attacker who is really has a malicious intent, he wanted to be part of the network. He wanted to be having an IP address here. Okay, so whether you are using this strategy or using this strategy, don't let him physically to access your network. So how can you can you really stop him from accessing your network? In this diagram over here, you can see they have both some sort of lock and key to lock all the unused ports. So he cannot really plug to any one of these unused ports. And also sometimes here there will be a lock. Okay, you're saying this is okay, this is a lock, and the attacker is determined he can just get like a screwdriver and he just can open this and connect to the network. And that's why it's important to also block this ports from the command line of the switch. So go to the switch and say, you know what, I only have port 3 is working. This is, I know this is my employees. Any other port, I will put them in a disable mode. So this is I will stop the attack from happening in the first place. So if even the attacker, he brought his laptop, he brought the cable, he tried to access this port, okay, even if you open this port, when this port is connected, it will be connected to port number 2. Port number 2 from the switch is disabled. So he will not be able to access anything. Okay, guys, so this is what we say, access to the physical switch port should be restricted. Why? Because once he plugged his computer to the switch, he will get an IP address, he will be part of your network, and he will be causing damage within the network. Okay, so far so good, guys. Physical attacks. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But let's say that you have a user, okay, and this user have a connected laptop here, and this is your own user, okay. And let's say that the attacker managed, and this user for his laptop, he left the company, or maybe he traveled, so his port is open and active from the from the switch. He's active from the switch, and this port is free. So the attacker sees this and they say, okay, perfect. Okay, let me just connect it to this open port. And once he will connect, he will be able to part of network. How can I protect from this kind of attack? And this is where we said there's something called port security or MAC filtering or MAC limiting. Means when I implement this configuration in the first place, I will say, okay, you know, when our user connect to your this port, learn the MAC address. Okay, if anyone else connect to this port because he have a different MAC address, then it will disable this port right away. This is what we call port security. Port security in a very simple way. We go back and to clear this up a little bit. Okay, you have already a port which is open and connected to one of your users. Once you connect a legitimate computer to this port, or a proper computer to this port will learn the MAC address, and it will assign this MAC address to this port. Let's say this guy traveled or went outside and his port is still free. If the attacker comes here and he tried to connect his computer, even this port is open, okay, because the MAC address here is different the MAC address in the computer of the attacker, then this port will be disabled. Okay, and no way that he will knows what is your MAC address, so he will not be able to spoof the MAC address. Okay, guys, so this is another way of limiting. Exactly, only one MAC address. You can actually make it 3. Okay, you make it 4, you make it 5. It's up to you. But it's in a very, very strict environment. It will be only one MAC address of the laptop. If you change your laptop, you need to go to the administrator and tell him that you changed your laptop and you need now to this port to learn about your new MAC address. Okay, guys, that's why we call it MAC filtering, or sometimes some switches called it port security. Okay, how about this? Okay, you were not careful enough, okay, or the attacker was smart enough to really deceive you or deceive your board and be part of your network. So you didn't really do anything, okay, and your switch is over there, and the attacker managed to connect to the switch using his computer. One of the attacks that the attackers can do is something called DHCP snooping. Okay, do you guys know what is DHCP? You already have an idea what is a DHCP before in one of our pre-boot camp lectures? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. What is a DHCP server, guys?
It's the administrator. We can use the user and the group and make a permission for everyone on it.
Okay, I will explain
We
one.
can manage and control and
identify IP address.
Bravo. Okay, so I see. I heard 2 different answers, and they are very close to the right answer. They are actually the right answer. Okay, so what is this DHCP is all about? We mentioned that in order to communicate, guys, in our network, we need a source IP address and destination IP address. And I told you the destination IP address we can get from a service called DNS. Okay, how will we get, okay, our source IP address? Who is giving our IP address? Okay, your computer IP address. Okay, your computer IP address can be assigned in 2 ways. One is static, so you go to the setting and you add your IP address. Okay, this is okay, this is what we call defense in depth. Defense in depth, ya Shaza, means that I will implement multiple defense techniques, okay, until I feel like really secure. Okay, so I close the port and the port is disabled. I know it doesn't make sense, but this is defense in depth. Okay, why? Maybe one day I enabled a configuration in the port, okay, and I forget that I enabled this configuration, but still they look over here. So if someone, even if I did a mistake with the configuration, if someone tried to put his port over here, it will not work because this is a physically closed. Okay, so this is what we call defense in depth, but it's very good question. Okay, and another thing about defense in depth, and I wanted you always to think about defense in depth in this way, guys. Okay, defense in depth is basically, let's say that you have a castle, okay, and you really want to defend your castle. You really want to defend your castle. You know what you will do? You will do everything that you can stop the attacker to come close your castle, because if he comes very close to your castle, okay, he can maybe knock the door down and get inside. So what you do? Some of the castles, if you looked at the old movie, they will build water, or they will dig a water hole around the castle. That means the attacker will really come to this area, and there is a bridge to take you to the castle. They will open this bridge, so the only way the attacker will be able to get there is by swimming or having a boat. And this is what will give the people in the castle the time to start to defend. So maybe they will have a tower here with an archer or someone who's gonna throw arrows, and he will start to targeting them, right? Okay, and maybe I will have another guy who is standing in a tower here who can monitor this around area. So I will build multiple defenses, or maybe I can, open the door and let some really wild animals to run in this bridge, or maybe I will put some very specific fishes here, like a piranha, so no one can really swim to the castle. Okay, I will fortify also my door. So I will make my door is very hard to break in. So this is what we call the we call the defense in depth. So we're building multiple defense until it's becoming impossible for the attacker from outside to get inside. Okay, so this is the idea behind defense in depth. When you go work in a place, inshallah, make sure that when you implement security, implement with a defense in depth strategy. Like I will build the first layer, preventive, and then I will build another layer of detective, and I will build another layer of detective, and I will build another layer of corrective. So even if the attacker managed to penetrate through one, I can detect him, or I can do something about it, right? So this is defense in depth. Okay, sorry guys, I just wanted to answer Shaza and this because this is an important question. Okay, so now let's say that how did your computer over here, okay, this is your computer. I know this looks like old style computer, but I have here my network cable. How did I get an IP address? Okay, there is two ways, guys, to get an IP address. The first way is the person who is sitting in the computer, the administrator, will assign IP address. Okay, will assign IP address means he will say, okay, my IP address is going to be 10.0.0.1, sorry. Okay, and this is going to be my IP address, and I will use this IP address to communicate over the network and everywhere. So this is a way, and it will work automatic. Okay, but let's say, guys, you are working in a very big environment where there's 10,000 computers. Do you think it's normal? Do you think it's okay to just for the administrator to go to 10 different PCs to assign IP addresses? No way. Okay, it will not happen. Okay, and it's also prone to mistakes. Maybe you will give an IP address here to one of these machine, and you will forget, and you will assign the same IP address to another machine in the network, and will cause conflict. So it's a prone for issues. So what we do in a big organization, okay, we need an automated way. Exactly, Ustaz Nagwa. Thank you. It's an automated way to assign IP address. So we'll get a server here, and this server called DHCP, okay, dynamic host, okay, control protocol, and this guys, the dynamic host control protocol, which is gonna spread IP address. Once you come here and ask for the IP address, the DHCP will lease you an IP address. Why we leasing? Because after 30 days, maybe you will need a new IP address, or maybe he will keep the lease. So we call it leasing, but he will give you IP address. Once you get the IP address, you will be able to communicate to the internet. And that's why if you are sitting at home now, and you're sitting, okay, but I never configured, okay, an IP address in my computer. How did I get an IP address? Your router, your wireless router at home, okay, your wireless router or your access point is actually working. One of the device configuration is to work as a DHCP. Okay, so once you are in the network, once you add your username and password, okay, for this wireless access point, it will assign you an IP address, and then you will be able to connect to the internet. And that's why the first time, if you guys remember, the first time you connect to your router or your wireless access point, you will say, okay, connected, but there is no internet. Why you are connected? Connected because you passed the authentication. And now he is assigning for you an IP address. And then once you assign the IP address, you will be able to see the internet. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but this is what happened if you connect from the wireless. So your router at home works as a DHCP. And the DHCP is automatically giving IP address. So if you got your tablet and you connect it to the wireless access point, it will do the same thing. If you connected your mobile to the wireless access point, it will assign for you an IP address. So everyone now understand what is DHCP is all about?
Like we work offline.
The
router, it's work as a DHCP.
The work mean the DHCP, the router work as a DHCP. It means it will assign you an IP address. Your computer needs an IP address, Nasiba, so it can connect to the internet. Okay, without an IP address, proper IP address, you will not be able to connect to the internet. Okay, so how can I get the IP address? I can make the router work as a DHCP. Okay, and the the router functionality, which is going to work as a DHCP. Once you connect to the router, He said, oh, this client doesn't have an IP address. Let me assign him an IP address. Okay, if you get your phone and connect it to the router, oh, this phone, in order to connect to the internet, he needs an IP address. Let me assign him an IP address. And this is going to be your source IP address. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, it says spoofing. Can I detect MAC spoofing? Okay, very good question, Yosef. I will answer the MAC spoofing in 1 second. Just give me 1 minute to finish the DHCP snooping. So after everyone understand what is DHCP, I will explain what is a DHCP. So guys, so now I have a switch and I have an attacker, and the attacker find a port here which is open. Okay, I didn't secure my physical. I didn't secure, I didn't configure the switch to disable this port. So what one of the attacks that the attacker will do is say, okay, you know what? This is a DHCP. This is a port. Okay, let me say that I'm a DHCP. Okay, let me see. I'm a DHCP. So he will reclaim himself as a DHCP. And then here, guys, if one of the computer within the network coming asking for a DHCP, they say, okay, look, I'm looking for a DHCP to get an IP address. This guy, the attacker, will say, okay, I am your DHCP, come take from me an IP address. And what will happen in this case, they will give him an IP address and they say, you know what, in order to send any traffic to the internet, send your traffic to me and I will send it to the internet. So he's gonna work as your router and the DHCP in the same time. So what this will allow the attacker to do, that he's gonna see all the traffic coming from a user to the internet. And that means he is gonna work as a man of the middle attack. Okay, so this is what DHCP snooping is all about. You're acting like a DHCP. You are giving IP address, telling everyone in the network, hey, if you want an IP address, come take from me. Okay, so you will give them an IP address and they will give them also the gateway. You will tell them, you are the gateway. Give me your traffic and I will forward you to the internet. And once they give you the traffic, you will be able to see the traffic, which is one of the passive attacks, or maybe you can use it to attack the machine itself. So this is gonna be an active attack. But here's what is DHCP snooping is all about. So how can I stop DHCP snooping? Because this is a very serious attack, okay? And this is gonna be how to implement DHCP. So let's say that you have a DHCP within your network. It's connected here. This is your real DHCP, okay? This is DHCP, the real one, okay? You can come to your router and say, you know what? If anyone comes to really talk to DHCP, send him to this port only. Okay, so that's mean if someone later on come here and this is a fake DHCP and say, hey, I'm a DHCP, okay, they will never forward the traffic here because he knows your router or your switch, he knows exactly where is the real DHCP. And that's how we stop DHCP snooping attacks. Okay, guys, do you understand what's happening here? Or shall I repeat it one more time?
So it's like filtering the message and the limits traffic.
You will configure here, okay, in your switch, you will say, okay, whoever wanted a real DHCP, he goes to port 8 to talk to my real DHCP. So any other port that it has a client, okay, and this client looking for IP address, he will send it to the switch. The switch, you say, okay, I wanted the DHCP. Usually, okay, what happened is whoever faster from these two DHCP will be able to answer. Okay, so what happened in the scenario of configuration? The configuration saying the authorized DHCP is connected to port 8. So he will go port 8. Even if the attacker managed to put a fake one here in port 4 and it was faster, it will never go and ask port 4 because the configuration in the switch is saying the real DHCP is connected to port 8. Okay, guys? So this is what DHCP snooping and how to attack. So this is one of the attacks that happened. Another way of attacks is dynamic ARP inspection. Prevent an untrusted port from flooding our ARP replies. Okay, I know that Mr. Asad explained ARP, okay, before, but I will explain it one more time so you guys can understand. Okay, what is ARP is all about? ARP is very dangerous attack, especially if the attacker within your network, because some attacks is called ARP poisoning, and ARP poisoning really can be a dangerous attack because it can lead to man of the middle attacks. I will explain how it can lead to this. Okay, so let's say that your computer decided to send some traffic to the internet. So in order to do this, you need to have the source port, the destination port. Maybe you are talking to port 80, so you are talking to an HTTP server, and then you have to add your basically IP address, so source IP address, okay, and destination IP address. Okay, so the source IP address, we know from like 5 minutes ago that we're getting the source address, whether it's automatic from DHCP or whether by assigning it manually. Okay, and the destination IP address for this website, we mentioned before that we get it from something called the DNS. Okay, now it's becoming easy. Now let's say what is the other layer behind this. The other layer just below this one is source MAC address, okay, which is your MAC address, which is coming in your network interface card. So this is easy to get because this interface card is connected to your computer. So you can physically get quickly the source address. Okay, how about the destination MAC address? How can I get the destination MAC address? This is a question that's the answer for it is ARP. Okay, what is ARP is all about? ARP is a protocol that we use within our network to match, okay, IP address to a MAC. Okay, so now I wanted to MAC address, so wanted to know what is the exactly resolving the MAC address. How? Okay, I wanted the MAC address. I have a computer in the network here, guys, okay, who has the MAC address, but I don't know what is a MAC address. I'm just making the packet the first time. How can I know his MAC address? So this is when ARP protocol comes to play. The ARP protocol, let's say this is a network, okay, and we connecting different computers to that network. Another computer over here and another computer over here, okay. One of them have the right MAC address that I wanted to communicate to, and one of them have a wrong MAC address. Okay, so how can I add the MAC address here? What happened in this stage, you will send a broadcast message. Hey, I have this IP address that I got from DNS. Who knows the MAC address? Okay, so this broadcast message, it will go to this first computer, okay, and it will go for the second computer. Okay, every computer knows the IP address that he has, right? Okay, and only computer that match the destination address, okay, it will reply with his own MAC address. So this is one, he said, no, this is not my MAC, this is not my IP address, this is not my MAC address. This one, he said, yes, this is my IP. Here is my MAC address. He will reply to you by the MAC address. Once he reply, you will add his MAC address here and you will be able to communicate to him. Okay, this is within your network. Again, MAC address is a protocol, is a broadcast protocol. It's saying who has the physical address for this IP address. How did he get the IP address of the destination? From DNS. DNS, after a search and what we talked about, he will give you an IP address for the destination. So the broadcast message is saying who has the MAC address or physical address for this IP address. So we have two computers here. The computer who has really the IP address, it will reply back with his own MAC address. Then you will add the MAC address here, and now you'll be able to send the data to this computer. Without this step, without the ARP protocol getting involved to give you the MAC address, okay, you will not be able to do this. Okay, so this is if you have computer within your network. What if you are trying to communicate with a computer outside your network? So you will need a router for this. In this case, guys, you will add the destination address of the destination MAC address of this interface of the router. Okay, and I think I show you diagram for this already. So we understand what is ARP is all about. It's an ARP protocol will help you to match an IP address with MAC address. It's in the broadcast message. Okay, I see Hanouf. Hanouf, you are asking a questions which is way advanced than what we explain right now. So do you understand the ARB first? I will answer your question. Okay, but let's just go and understand the ARB. Okay, so everyone understand the ARB, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So ARB now will help you to really find the destination MAC address. So let's look at what this attacker is all about. Prevent an untrusted port from flooding ARB replies. What we mean by this, okay? The attacker wanted to play man of the middle attacks. Okay, so he saw an ARB message or an ARB broadcast, a good user over here sitting here, okay? And he wanted to send his data to the internet, okay? So he sent an ARB message saying who has the IP address of 192, okay, 168.1.1. In a regular, this is our router, okay, and this is the attacker. Okay, guys. So what happened is, because this is a broadcast messages, this message will reach the router, okay, and it will reach also the attacker over here. So it will reach both of them maybe at the same time. Okay. This guy is the real IP address 192.168 because this is your router. He's the one that he's supposed to send you a message saying, okay, this is my MAC address. Please forward the message to me and I will forward to this attacker. Here, what the attacker will do is gonna do something called racing condition. He will send his reply right away and say, you know what, if you want to forward any traffic, send it to me. So what happened in this case? This guy is over here, he got our response from the attacker saying, you know, add my MAC address. So what, at that time, you are sending your data to the attacker, okay? And the attacker will forward this data to the internet after he already inspects your data and see what is inside. And this is also kind of man of middle attacks. And man of middle attacks, he's gonna play the man of the middle. He convinced you, he deceived you that he is your router, okay? And now you are forwarding your traffic to the attacker, okay? Because what you have done here, you add the source MAC address is your computer MAC address, and the destination MAC address is the attacker address. So every time you forward a frame to the network, it will reach to the attacker, and the attacker then forward it to the internet. So he's gonna play in man of the middle. And this is what we call poisoning, MAC address poisoning or ARB poisoning. And it's very famous, okay? And a lot of companies, they wanted really to stop this ARB poisoning thing. Okay. Another attack that is really the attacker can do, which is really bad, okay, is gonna be, he's gonna flood the network with his ARB. So everyone in the network, they will believe that he is the router, okay, and they will forward the traffic to him first before the attacker will forward it to the routers or to the internet. Okay, so this is gonna be kind of, yeah, guys, kind of attacks that is really bad because the attacker at that case will be acting as man of the middle attack. So we have here a message, a protocol or a technique in a switch called dynamic ARB inspection. Dynamic ARB inspection, okay, is you have only one guy here who used to send this message and saying, I'm your router, this is my MAC address. Okay, now if you find another one in the network saying I am 192.168 and this is MAC address, he will compare between both of them. And this guy, because this is a legitimate router, it will discard all these messages and it will disable the port that's a lot of flood of ARB messages coming from. Okay, so this is another way to really defend yourself from ARB poisoning by enabling the dynamic ARB inspection. So if they found a port that's a lot of messages coming from as an ARB flood, it will disable this port and it will allow only the real router to keep working. Okay, guys? So far, so good?
So Mr. Shadi,
Yeah.
the ARP should be only coming from the router,
Exactly.
right? Not one
Yes.
of the ports.
Yes, no, not one of the borders. And if it's coming one of the borders, it's not going to be a flood. Because what these guys are doing, why he's flooding the network with this ARP, or says, I don't know who asked it. Okay, Hadid. Why he's sending? Because he wanted to reply, like you have a normal user here. He send an ARP message. If he send an ARP message and it reached the real router, the router will respond because he has really the IP address. But what the attacker is doing here is flooding the network. Flooding means he sent a lot of ARP replies, a lot. Why? Because he wanted to catch these messages before it reached the destination. And he wanted to deceive this poor guy so he can really tell him, oh, I have the ARP reply. So many messages are, so many ARP replies coming from this board in a very fast way. So this is an indication this board is actually under attack of ARP flooding. And at that time, your switch will be able to disable this, Hadi.
Okay, interested. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Hadi,
Yes.
should you just told her and it should be from the router, not the port itself, right?
No, you should do this in the switch. Why? Because the switch is the one that's the ARP request will go into. Because what happened in ARP request, you send a broadcast message to every single port in the switch. Because sometimes maybe you don't want to really to talk to the external world. Okay, so you need a MAC address within your switch. So how you will get this? By sending a broadcast message to every port within your switch. And only this guy who has the IP address will respond. And I'll give you another scenario because your question is good. Okay, so let's say that you need to send, this is your computer connected to port 8, and this is another computer connected to port 5. And you guys are within the same network, okay? This computer is 1.12, your IP address, and this computer is .13, okay? And this port is 8. So what happened is, I wanted to add the MAC address of this computer. I want to send the traffic for this computer. Now I will not talk to the router at all. Okay, what will happen? I will send what is the MAC address for the computer that the IP address is 12? I will send a broadcast that it will reach to every single port here in the computer, in the switch, because this is a broadcast message. Okay, and only this guy, because the IP address is 12, he said, okay, my MAC address is 5. Here you go. He will do an ARP reply. On this case, I didn't include the router at all. Why? Because the communication is within my switch. Okay, guys? So far, so good?
Shadi?
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, you said that you mentioned earlier that ARP can flood you with messages, right?
Yes.
So is it similar to DDoS attack? Because
yes,
actually,
but this is ARP poisoning attacks.
Yeah,
what
because
is the
actually,
yeah.
Both of them actually flood you with
kind
messages.
of denial of service, because you deny of service of the router. You don't want the router to really reply, so you flood the network with your replies. So everyone get the attacker replies before the router replies. It's kind of, you are denying the routers from actually sending the right messages.
Okay.
Okay. So this is kind of denial of service, but the whole idea behind it is man of the middle attacks. You wanted everyone to save in his ARP, because what will happen right away is your computer will say, okay, you know what? I know now if I wanted to send the request to the external world, instead of he is adding the MAC address of the router, he will add the MAC address of the attacker. And that means every single time you're creating a new frame, this frame will be sent to the attacker computer, because now you have this MAC address, and the attacker computer is gonna forward this to the internet. But after really looking at your data, so he's playing man of the middle attacks. Okay, guys. So this is all the attacks that happens in the layer 1 and the layer 2 attacks. Okay. So as I mentioned, we need to really implement security when it comes to physical security. So we close our borders with a physically points like the one we saw in the last view over here. So we need to do physical security. We need to ensure security in switching by port security. I mentioned what is port security. I need to make sure that port security will learn one MAC address. If someone tried to put his IP address, so his computer in the same MAC address, it will not accept. So this is port security. Okay. We need to also disable unused ports. So what is the difference between port security and disable unused ports? Okay, disable unused ports if you have a switch with 10 points or 10 ports, okay, and I'm only using 2 to work or for my employees, I need to disable all of the other 8 ones. So all the 8 ones I will close. I will disable from the router configuration, and I will leave only these 2. So how about the port security? The port security is saying that when you connect the first computer, I will learn about the MAC address. If this guy went outside and I have an attacker or maybe a guest, he is going to connect to this port, he will not be able to get an IP. Why? Because port security is saying, oh, this is a different MAC address. I will put this port in something called violation mode. So it's going to be disabled. Only the administrator can really enable this port again. So this is what port security. Okay, we talked about MAC filtering. We're filtering based on MAC, okay, address. Okay. Also, we need to stop something called broadcast storm and loop prevention. Means that if you connected a computer with 2 cables, okay, to your switch, this can cause something called loops inside your networks and the broad storm. Why? Because if you send a broadcast here, what will happen is the broadcast will go and loop inside your switch and come back from here, and will loop again, will come back here, and will loop again and come back here, and he keeps looping until this switch will be become unusable, and the performance of this switch will go bad, really bad, until the switch maybe sometimes I seen it in one of the organizations that broadcast cause one of the switches to really restart. Okay, and it was a disaster because they connected all their devices to this switch. So one broadcast storm, like you connected a cable this way to a switch or connected to a computer to then back to the switch, it can cause broadcast storm, okay, or broadcast loop. And this loop can really take one of the switches down. So even if someone wanted to make a denial of service attack, he can easily come to the switch and, attach 2 ports together with 1 cable. And this will cause a loop and a loop and a loop until the switches will be exhausted. And then finally the switch will crack and, restart, or maybe even goes out of service. Okay, so we need to make sure that this doesn't happen. How we can make this doesn't happen? We can configure, okay, one of these ports as no broadcast storm. This is one of the configuration in the switch that we say that if there is a broadcast loop, okay, stop to send the same traffic over and over between these 2 ports, and at this time you are basically preventing this issue to happen. Okay, it's not only the attacker will do this. Maybe one of your technician guys, he was in a rush. He wanted really to connect one of the cable, and by mistakes, instead of letting this cable are hanging there, okay, they just put it in another free open port. You thought it's not gonna do any harm because the ports are disabled, but you don't know by this mistake it can actually cause an issue. Okay, guys. Okay, who should secure the port? Is the cybersecurity guy or the network engineer? Okay, very good question. Okay, some of network engineer, they have no clue about this ARP poisoning. Okay, they have no clue about port security. They have no clue about that someone can really spoof your Mac and start to act like this suspicious. Okay, because they didn't study really security. They are network guys. So as I mentioned before, they can implement network, they can connect router with the switches, they know how routing protocol works, but they didn't never come to their thoughts that there is also attacks. They didn't study security. So you are the special in this case, and we are bringing you to secure our system. So it will fall in your responsibilities to tell them about these attacks. And if you explain it to them, they will understand this. It's very easy because they understand the basic networks concept. So for them to add the layer of awareness of security, it would be easy. This is your responsibility as a network engineer. Okay, guys. So we took that some attacks. Okay, let's move to VLANs, because VLANs is very important topic, and I wanted to cover it today before we move to another topics, which is firewalls. Okay, so let me just clear this a little bit. Okay, in order to understand what is VLAN, let's first of all talk about what is LAN. Okay, local area network. Have any one of you guys studied what is networks before? What is LAN? Is all about?
Yes, local area network.
The local area network.
More
Yes,
than-
local area. What we mean by really local area network? Okay, mashallah, all of you guys.
Like
those that-
when it's connected with a short range, like maybe cables
Bravo.
sometimes.
Okay, who said that? Nasiba? Okay.
No,
Or
it's
Maha?
Maha. No,
Maha,
it's
okay,
Maha.
sorry. Okay, sorry, because I see Nasiba microphone is on, so I thought like it's you. Okay, perfect. So guys, it's limited by the geographic distance, means within your home. This is considered local area network because it's within a small or a distance, a very small distance. Okay, within your office, it's also a local area network because it's limited to a distance, which is a geographic distance. Within your maybe hospital, this is also your LAN. Okay, within maybe your campus, you are studying in campus and or a classroom, and you are sitting in the same classroom and connected with a Wi-Fi or maybe an access point. This is also considered LAN. So it's limited to a distance. Okay, the limitation in area, like Raj was saying, it could be maybe 100 meters, 150 meters, or 300 meters. This is the max, okay, when it comes to LAN. Okay, so it's limited to distance. So this is what this LAN is all about. Okay, now, in order to create LAN, you guys remember there's something called topology. And the topology means I have all my devices, and in order to create LAN and able to share configuration, information, we need all of our devices to be connected to a centralized location. Don't you guys agree? This is how we really create LAN. So we have a group of devices, okay? We are gonna use the star topology. There's a centralized place, and we're all connecting this device to centralized place. So maybe this centralized place is the wireless access point, or maybe it's a switch within the wall or something, and we connect it. Once we connect it, we are all gonna be able to share our data, and we call this a star, right, guys? This is so far so good.
Yes, here.
Okay, so what is VLANs now? Now I want this switch. Okay, this switch. I wanted to split it to more than one switch, virtually. What we mean by virtually? If you guys can see here, let me just move from this page to this page. So this is our normal switch. This is how it looks like. Okay, what if I have a group of engineers? Okay, they working in the left hand side. Okay, exactly. Now we are not gonna go and buy multiple switches, because why, you guys? Let's say that I have. I will explain. One of the things that I will explain is, let's have I don't have the budget to go and buy a switch, because you know the switch is very expensive. Okay, so one of these switches can cost you around $4,000 at least. Okay, some of the switches I seen it reached to $250,000, $100,000. That's around 1 million riyal, one switch. Okay, so I don't have this budget to buy a switch and over switch. So what I can do is I will split this switch virtually. I will say these ports from 1 to 8 belong to VLAN or to virtual LAN engineering. So all the engineer will be in this port. Okay, and the ports from 8 to 15 or to 16, they belong to marketing team. So I have marketing team will be able to share information, okay, and I don't need to buy for them another switch, okay, and they can really share information within here, and I'm not worried that my broadcast messages or anything I will send, it will reach the engineering. And at the same time, no one here in the VLAN engineering will be able to see the traffic for marketing engineering. So from the security perspective, I'm doing something called segmentation. I'm segmenting one switch to 2 areas. Area for marketing and area for engineering. and both of them, they cannot see the traffic from each other. And this is very good when it comes to security. And by the way, guys, this concept is the same concept that we are using in firewalls. Okay, so later on when we talk about firewalls, we are talking that one area here is called internal, okay, and one area here called external. The guys from external, they cannot see anything from internal. And the guys from internal allow them to see some stuff from the external. So this is the idea in firewall. Even it's a one device, but it's really segmented to 2 or 3 VLANs. Okay, so I don't want to go to firewall now. I just wanted you guys to understand what is VLAN. Okay, so far so good. What is VLAN is, or shall I explain it in one more example? Okay, let's just jump here one more slide so I explain it one more time. VLANs is very important, guys. Okay, very important. Okay.
So
let's-
Mr. Excuse me, I have a question. So
Yes.
when we use VLAN and segmented the LAN by groups, it should be in the all LAN in the same domain or different?
It will be completely different domains. You are not be able to share broadcast messages. يعني if you remember يا أستاذة نسيبة, okay,
Yes.
before if one of these computer, okay, if one of these computer send a broadcast message, it will reach every single port within this switch, right? Because it's a broadcast, right? But once I created a VLAN, which is virtual LAN, it will only be this broadcast only until this point. It will never go to this area at all. Okay, so even we even call it the VLAN is splitting the broadcast domains. I don't want to go to broadcast domain and and all the stuff, but just I'm giving you an idea. So this is now considered 2 switches. Switch that's for engineering team, okay, and switch for the marketing team. Even they are in the same hardware, but I did virtually separated both of them. So I segmented the switch to 2 areas, and both of area they will not be able to see the traffic for each other. خلاص, they are both completely different LAN.
Okay.
As if, okay, you bought 2 switches, okay, and you connected the marketing team here, and you connected the engineering team here, okay. Because you have a switch for marketing, a switch for engineering, they will not be able to see their traffic back and forth because they are separate. The same thing, VLAN will segment it virtually, the one router, or sorry, one switch to 2 areas or 3 areas. ممكن even I can create 10 VLANs here. I said every 4 ports belong to a LAN called sales. Another 4 ports is connected to marketing. Another 4 ports is connected to engineering. Another 4 ports are connected to HR. And they will, each one of them, they will feel they are in the same area. They can communicate with each other, but in the same time, they cannot see the traffic from engineering or from marketing or from sales.
Okay.
Okay, guys?
Yes.
Does this make sense? Why I'm explaining VLANs, guys? Because VLANs is very good when it comes to security. Okay, I told you the firewall concept is based on VLANs. And at the same time, I wanted to make sure that in layer 2, because by the way, where is the switch is working? Switch is working in layer 2. Why I know that the switch is working in layer 2? What makes me say that the
Because
switch
it's use the MAC address, the physical
Exactly.
address.
It's use the MAC address in decision to forward frames. So if you look at the TCP/IP model, we go up here in this model, we'll find out that our cables and our switch work in this data link layer, which is layer 2, or we call it here network access layer in TCP/IP. So the switch working here. Why? Because it really needs the MAC address to communicate. Okay, so we are working in layer 2, which is the data link or the layer network access layer in TCP/IP. Okay, guys, so far so good. Okay, so the switch working in this. So sorry, I have to go here. Okay, so what is the whole idea behind VLAN is basically segmentation. It will allow me to segment my network, and also it will limit the broadcast. Okay, because once I have a VLAN. Okay, so before guys, look at this. This is the diagram here. We have a hub or we have a switch here, and everyone is connected to this switch or a hub. And if someone send a broadcast, it will reach all the guys here. And because this is a hub, it will reach everyone here. And because this is a hub, it will reach, sorry, it will not reach because there is a router here. Anyway, everyone within this area, he will get the broadcast, okay? So what I can do is I can really say, okay, I have a switch now, and I wanted really to segment the switches. So why I'm segmenting the switch? Look at this. Maybe these guys, okay, I have an engineer in the floor number 1. I have an engineer in a floor number 2. I have an engineer in a floor number 3. And I need all of them to really communicate with each other. Okay, and look at this. I have a marketing team in floor number 1 and 2 and 3. And I have also sales team in a floor number 1 and 2 and 3. How can I reach these 3 guys, even they are not sitting in the same switch, to be part of one network? I can say, you know what? This port belong to VLAN, virtually VLAN 3, this one over here. Okay, and I will come here and say, do the same thing here. I will say this is VLAN 3. Okay, and I will assign this guy over here to be VLAN 3. And the same thing here for VLAN 3. When I do this, all of them now, they are sharing the same network, even though they are not sitting in the one single place. And even though they are connecting to different complete switches. Why? Because I created a smaller chunk of the switch and I called it VLAN. Okay, guys, so it's good for segmentation. And it will allow also me to share the resources and data between my team members, even we are sitting in a different floors. Okay, as you can see here. Yes, this is a technicality is used also, guys, in the AWS. The same thing we are using even in the cloud. If you have a cloud, you will create something called VBD. Have you ever heard about VBD? I don't know who asked this question. Nawar. These are technical used in AWS and Google Cloud to separate each company service. No. This is not going to separate each company service. It's going to separate your data, your network traffic from each other. Yani in a very simple ways, guys. Okay, let's just try to explain here. I have one switch. Okay, usually what happens in one switch, everyone connected to this switch, they can communicate with each one here. So for example, let's say that you are in a port 1, okay, you can talk to port 6, right? Because this is a switch. The switch will do something called MAC address table, and he will forward the traffic to any other port, right? You can talk to another port over here, port number 7. In a normal scenario, right? You can talk to any port. If you send the broadcast, it will reach every single port in the switch, right? Okay, let's say that this switch are holding 2 different type of users. So bear with me a little bit. I will create another switch, and here in the right hand side, sales, and in the left hand side are HR. Now, if I create a VLAN, if I want someone from the HR wanted to talk to someone in the sales, he will not able to talk to him, because this is going to be VLAN ID 2, and this is one going to be VLAN ID 3.
So you mean actually
2 networks.
Complete network separated?
Yes, but it's becoming 2 networks, not only one network. So it's completely separated. Okay, so you cannot forward the message to any board, even you are in the same switch. So this is gonna give me segmentation. I will give you one example that can show you the segmentation is very important. Let's say that I am right now I'm in a factory. Okay, in the factory, I have different machinery. Okay, some of the machines are doing packing to my product, and some of the other machines are doing, you know, maybe shipment. So it's put it in the package or whatever and sending outside. Okay, now I can go and buy 2 switches. Okay, and the 2 switches would be expensive. Now I can say, you know what, I will create a VLAN for the packaging. Okay, I will add these 2 boards and I connect these machines. Okay, And for no shipment, I will create 2 ports and I connect this machine. Now, these 2 machines are not connected at all. They cannot send the traffic to each other. They cannot broadcast each other. So they are as if a completely different network, but they are running on the same exact platform, which is the same switch. This is in a very simple way. Okay, guys? And in the same way, when we create our firewall, we look at it in the same idea. How? When we look at the firewall, if you guys know what is a firewall, the firewall is one device, okay, part of it connected to the internet, and part of it connected to your local LAN, right? And these 2 parts, they are not talking to each other, except if you allow them to talk to each other, okay? So as you created a device with 2 VLANs, VLAN on the right-hand side is outside world, and VLAN on the left-hand side, they are it's inside your network. Okay, by default, no one from outside will be able to reach your inside, because even though that the same device, but each one of them are in a different VLAN. Okay, guys, I hope this is the VLAN's idea is important. It's important, and I hope I already tried as much as I can to clarify what is VLANs. But if you have any issues, I don't mind to spend more time. It's important. Okay, so alhamdulillah, Shahid is saying it's clear. Who else, guys, think it's clear? I know it's a new concept for you.
Clear, yeah, it's clear.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So we now created from a single physical LAN different virtual LANs. They are separated. They are not talking to each other. Within the VLAN itself, they can talk to each other. Outside the VLAN, they cannot talk. One last concept. Okay. So we managed to talk about VLAN. I wanted to explain routers, and we also wanted to really know what is the functionality of routers. Okay, and routers are very cool devices that we have in our network. They work in layer 3. Did anyone knows why they are working in layer 3, or they call it the IB layer or the internet layer in TCP?
Because they use the port TCP and UDP.
Okay, because router are using layer 3 IB address to forward the traffic. Okay, your router at home is working right now because it's getting your packets. The packet is a message that has a sender IB address and the destination IB address, and it will forward this data to something called the service provider. The service provider, it consists of so many routers that start to send the data from one hub to one hub, or from one router to one router until it reaches the destination. So router, they taking the decision of forwarding the message based on the IB address. And because they are taking the decision to forward based on IB address, we call them layer 3 devices or the internet devices. Okay, guys, and if you have doubt in this, you always go and look at the diagram here. If you look at this diagram, we'll find network layer, which is the layer that use IB address. They called it in the TCP IP module, internet layers. And if you can see here, it's using what? You know, IB address. Okay, so I know that router is located here. Okay, let's say that I have in the routers, I have some traffic coming from outside, which is unwanted traffic. Like someone is sending traffic like a denial of service. I can see from this IB address, he's sending really bad traffic. Okay, can I filter this traffic using a router? And that's why router does have a technique called access list. I don't know if you have studied access list before or no, but access list in a very simple way is also the grandfather of all our firewall. Because what is our firewall is doing? Our firewall doing 2 jobs. Okay, guys? The first job is, sometimes my computer is slow, driving me crazy, sorry. Okay, one more time. Okay, what is the idea behind firewall, guys? The firewall will segment your network, so it will create outside and inside. Okay, right? Do we agree? This is the same like a VLAN. And also the firewall, if we have really bad traffic coming, the firewall will manage to deny this data, right? So this is what firewall is all about, right? So who is the granddad of the firewall? Is access list. Basically, I will have a router, and the router will inspect the IP address, source IP address, and destination IP address. If he found a rule within the router to allow this traffic, this is my router, he's an expert when it comes to IP addresses. So he can read the IP address source and the IP destination. If I created here in the router, in this interface where the traffic is coming, if I created an access list saying, you know, some IP address, I will allow them to go to my network, and some of IP address, I don't want them to come here. Okay, and I will give you an examples, but I will just give you, I'm just telling you what is an access list. So the access list will be configured in the interface for the data coming from outside to allow certain traffic to get in and to deny or to drop other traffic. Okay, guys? I don't know, I don't hear anything, I don't feel anything, so that means, is it okay? Shall I keep going?
It is okay, but I want to ask if the IP
Yes.
is not there in the list.
Okay, very, very good. Okay, the access list, very good question. I was coming to this. The access list have something called implicit deny. Okay, what is implicit deny, Ustaza Lamia? I think, right? Lamia or Maha?
Nawar.
Nawar. What is the access list implicit deny means? I have rule number 1 saying I will allow traffic from SMTP. I will have a rule, second rule, saying that I will allow traffic from DNS. Third rule, we say I will allow traffic from Amazon. If this is the 3 rules I have. Fourth rules, it will be not written, but it will be written within every single access list. It's saying, if the traffic not matching rule number 1 and rule number 2 and rule number 3, please drop the traffic. It will be deny all. This is the implicit deny, Ustaza Nawar. Did you get what is this? What is all about? Yes. Why it's interesting, Nawar? Why we have this? Because we wanted only the good traffic to get in. Okay. Imagine, Nawar, I did it the other way around. Okay. Shahad is saying access list control network traffic and router network attacks. Yes. Great. Let's see. Very basic question, very basic principle in security called known good, okay, and known bad. Okay, known good and known bad. Okay, I will tell you, Ustaza Nawar, why I have this implicit deny. Can I know every single known bad traffic in the internet? Can I know it?
No.
No, no way. There is so many bad traffics, and I cannot write enough rules to stop all this bad traffic. Okay, how about known good? The thing is that good for my organization. Can I know it?
No, also no.
Known good.
I know I can't know all the IPs, but I can
No, but I can say
write the
that
rules.
every IP that's coming to talk to my HTTP server is okay. Every IP that's coming to talk to my email server is okay. Okay, this is the only service that I want people from outside to see. Anything else, it's bad.
Oh.
So do you understand what is known good? I know my organization. I know what kind of service from someone from externally coming to me. So I know the known good, but I don't know the known bad. So what I will do, I will enable the known good. Okay, I will write a rule for it. And then I will let the access list to take care of the rest. So say, okay, you know what, there is anyone else?
So, let me give you an example and ask you. In some project, okay, there is an email provider which is give you a service which you can send an emails to your client. Okay, so I know this is traffic comes from this client is good.
Okay.
So I open it for them.
Okay.
You mean that?
Yes, I'll tell you what. Okay. So what we mean by I enable the traffic for emails, okay, means I have a mail server here, okay, and I send the email to the external world, and I'm expecting emails from external world coming to me. Okay, I cannot specify which IP address I will be receiving the traffic from, because I don't know all that my clients. So I will allow any IP address over port 25 to talk to my email server. Okay, but let's say that the attacker are using IP address and he is trying to telnet with my server. Okay, from any IP address in the world, I will say, you know what? I'm not gonna allow someone who is talking telnet to my network internally, because I don't want someone to remotely connect to any devices. So I will allow SMTP, which is mail, but I will disallow or deny or to drop any telnet traffic. Okay.
Okay, it's clear now.
So so you can filter the traffic based on the IP address, the port number, and the protocol number that it uses. So you can say, okay, you know what? Anyone, I will give you a nice diagram so you guys can see how the access list is gonna work. Okay. A nice diagram is looking like, if you allow me, yes, here. Okay, so you have traffic, okay, that's incoming traffic. I'm gonna check the IP address, okay, and according to my access list rules, is either I'm gonna deny, okay, or disallow, or I'm gonna allow and let it to go to inside my network. And that's exactly what is firewall is doing. Okay, firewall doing a very similar job. Okay, but the firewall is configured in two phases. It's first of all, it's VLAN. So the firewall is part of VLAN because it separates the outside world from your inside your world. So this is the VLAN. That's why I explained VLANs, guys. And also, okay, it use something called like an access list to filter the traffic coming. Okay, now let's say that's one of my colleagues inside the organization. He sent an email to outside. He expecting a reply. If the firewall is denying everything from to enter my network, then this email will be dropped. But here, what I will do in the firewall here, says, or I will do in my router, I will write a control list saying, you know what? I'm expecting email from outside, so please allow anyone communicating over the email to really go into my network. Okay, this is in a very simple way that's to explain. Okay, guys, so far so good?
Yes, so far so good.
So
okay.
Who
Yes.
specified these rules is Anne, okay? It's not, I mean, in Windows, there is a firewall, it's already comes from the
Okay.
system.
I will tell you. I will tell you about the firewalls in Windows in 1 second. But for now, it's you understand what is the router is gonna do now. This is the
Yes.
granddad of firewall that we talk about packets. I'm gonna filter the packets based on the IP address and based on the port number. Okay. And you remember one thing about access list. I cannot really explain everything in access list because access list is a topic itself. You know, if you in a university, even if you are in Cisco college, they will explain access list maybe in 3-4 sessions. But access list, it will be just a group of rules to tell you what is allowed within your organization. Because the router here, guys, will be sitting here. Okay. Oh, when a traffic reach to this point or to this interface, it will check the access list, apply it to this interface. Oh, is this traffic is allowed? No. Okay, so he will pass the first rule. Second rule, this traffic is matching, this traffic is coming? No. I will go to third rule. Third rule, is this traffic is matching here? Yes, matching. I will allow the traffic to go in. Okay. Again, another traffic are coming. Here is the access list. It will try to match the traffic here and here and here. It doesn't find a match. What it will do, it will implement something called implicit deny. Means I don't know any of this traffic, so it's not known good for me. So I will disallow it by default. Okay, okay, we understand what is implicit deny means, guys, because this could be actually an interview question. Okay, explain what is an access list and tell me what is implicit deny in access list. Okay. So far, so good. Only Reem.
Yes. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. I'm sorry I didn't give you a break, but this is a topic which is I wanted you guys to really focus on it. So I'm trying to connect everything in one time. Okay, so let's go and jump to how the access list looks like, because it's important to see. Okay, see, let's look at this access list. Access list, I'm gonna give a number to this access list. And as I mentioned, I have deny. Okay, so if I didn't write anything in my access list and I apply it to my interface, it will block every single thing coming from outside. So I have to at least to have one rule saying permit. And look at what it's really saying here. You know, my access list here consists of 2 lines, okay? And these 2 lines are saying basically, let's go on the first line so you guys can see. Access list 100, this is a number, okay? Permit, allow, so I'm allowing something. A TCP, okay? And I mentioned the TCP always related to a port number. So he mentioned the port number here. Okay, guys can see? Okay. I'm allowing this network to talk to this host. So what that means? I have a network, and this network is 192.168.1.anything. And I have a computer here, and let's say this computer is a computer that I wanted to control remotely. So I will say to my router, I have router in between, okay? If you got this traffic and it's coming from this network, which is, let me type it down, 192, okay, 168.1, and it try to communicate with my host, which is, this is gonna be my host 10, okay, .10 .something .64.1. Okay, if they are coming to talk to my client over the port 23, which is a telnet. Okay, when the traffic reach here, what it will do, guys, it will allow the traffic to reach the destination. So the telnet, it will reach the destination. Okay. Also, another here, something saying access list 100 deny TCP any port 23, which is telnet. That's mean if I have another network here, okay, or I have 100 networks here, they are coming to the same port to talk to my client over here. What they will find is they will find the deny action. Why I'm denying anything except this first network. This is the only one who will be able to reach to the host here and use telnet. So this is kind of filtering the traffic. Okay, guys, so far so good. Do you understand how we write an access list? So we specify the access list. Are we using TCP? Which port? Because with TCP, we said that we have to specify the port number, because the port number is gonna tell us what kind of traffic it is. So if it's 25, it's an SMTP, so I know it is mail server. If it's like 21, I know it's FTP, so I'm trying to really stop the FTP traffic, and so on. So, and I have to specify the source and the destination. And you can see this router over here is really now working as a bodyguard. Some traffic, it will be allowed inside, and some other traffic, I'm so sorry, I cannot allow you because you are not in my list. You are not in my invitation list. The invitation list is really about this network talking to this host. I hope this is clarify what is an access list is all about, guys. And this is another example over here. When I forward to you guys this presentation, I will make sure that you already do this as an exercise. It's an easy exercise. It will tell you what this access list is gonna do. Okay, so you need to read the access list in the same way. Okay, so the first line is deny. Okay, and I'm talking to port 21. So I wanted you guys to know what is port 21 is all about. Okay, what kind of traffic I will stop. Okay, and then you can see the second line here is saying access list 100 permit any. So after this one, I don't care any IP address, because I said IP any means I will allow any kind of traffic. The first line will deny certain traffic. The second line will allow all sort of traffic, because I mentioned this here is IP, not TCP. Okay, anyway, I'm not gonna spend much more time in access list, but I just wanted to tell you that the firewall that we have today is really combined the concept of VLAN that we studied in 5 minutes ago. VLAN, what is the VLAN is gonna do? Same hardware, it's gonna divide it to multiple hardware, multiple networks. And also firewall implementing access list that we just explained. Both of them together, they will create the superhero firewall. Why? Because the firewall, if you look at it, it's a device that is gonna really create a network for untrusted world, which is the internet, okay? And it will create another network for the trusted world. This is your network. So it's kinda VLANs. It's actually when you implement when you are actually configured the firewall in Cisco, you will actually create two VLANs. One VLANs you will call the outside VLAN, and VLAN called inside VLAN. So anyone inside the VLAN can talk to each other, okay, and they are okay, but they cannot really talk to outside except if you really allow them. And at the same time, anyone from outside, they can talk to each other, but when they try to come to your VLAN inside to talk, sorry, there is a barrier here. Even they are in the same hardware because I created two VLANs. Okay, so this is one thing. Okay. Another thing that we need also to understand about firewalls, the firewalls is not gonna keep the outside always like this. Why? So it's by default, no one from external world, I will give this external, the word external, okay? No one from the external world will be able to talk to anyone internal, okay? Except if I created what? An ACL, access list. When I create an access list, I will say, you know what? I don't want to deny everyone because by default it's denying everyone. I will create access list to allow certain traffic to reach certain service within the organization. Let's say that maybe I have a server here, which is HTTP. It's my server for my organization. So I wanted to allow all the world to see my server. So in this case, even within having a firewall, I will write an access list to allow traffic from outside reaching my web server. Okay, guys? So again, what is the whole idea behind the firewall? Firewall will do the two functions: segmentation using the VLAN concept that we studied, okay? And also filtering the traffic based in access lists or based on the source destination, the IP destination, and also the port number. Okay, guys, now I think if you are in an interview and someone asked you about firewall, it will be very hard for you to forget. Okay? So far, so good?
Yes, excuse me, Mr.
Yes.
Access list is the rule built on the router. Okay, what the difference between access list and DMZ? DMZ also separate and deny some.
Okay, very good question, Yosef. Very good question. Who asked Nasiba about DMZ?
Nasiba, yes.
Okay, Nasiba saying that firewall, we always see the firewall. I don't know. Have you ever studied firewalls in the universities, guys? How many heard about firewall or DMZ in the university?
Yes.
Can I assume?
Yes.
Can I assume all of you? Or it's very hard to assume? Okay, I know some of you guys just joined today, and I'm really sorry about that's going without giving you about enough introduction about what we're doing. But for people who just joined today, I'm here in Slack or in Discord to communicate with me. But for people who just asked about DMZ, I will explain why DMZ.
Okay.
Why DMZ, Nasiba? Okay, and this is very important thing. Okay, DMZ, it's another VLAN. Okay, another VLAN. So now I'm just creating 3 VLANs inside my my single device, which is firewall. So let me get my pen here so you guys can understand this in a very clear way. But it's a very good question, Nasiba, and this is will make a lot of sense right now because we are talking about this. Okay, so what is the DMZ here, guys? It's another VLAN. Okay, why is he created another? They called it demilitarized zone. يعني منطقة منزوعة السلاح. Okay, why is we call it this way? Okay, First of all, I'm coming from the internet. Let's say I have my server here, okay, the HTTP server, okay, and I have my email server here. What happened is, if an attacker managed to exploit one of the vulnerabilities here, okay, he can easily jump to one of my computers over here and exploit it. Why? Because he's now in my internal network. Once he's in the internal, if he managed to get one server exploited, it will be him matter of seconds until he started to do something called lateral movement or jump from server to server to server, because he is inside. And I trust inside, okay? And now he is inside, he can do whatever he wants. Okay, how can I make the life for the attacker more harder to attack my internal network? So they said, okay, you know what? I will create another area which is not gonna be as secure as my internal. So if the attacker coming to access my internal, I will say, sorry, you cannot access at all. You are not allowed to be here. But I will create for you an area where you can see only SMTP traffic, okay, and only HTTP traffic. And I will allow you to come to this area to see my traffic, okay? Let's say that attacker managed to take over your web server. Still, the attacker have to jump again to your network. So this is gonna be also not easy to jump from your DMZ to your internal network, because this is gonna be also hard, okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I agree with Shahad that this topic is actually, I'm teaching this topic, guys, in university in 1 semester. I don't know who was the brilliant idea to have all this in one session. But anyway, I'm not gonna talk about what we having as issues with the curriculum, but I'm saying that usually, guys, this topic of VLANs, access list, firewall, intrusion detection system, UTM, Unified Threat Management, we teach this as a course called Network Security. And this course is 1 whole semester. So don't ask me how we can do it in 1 session. Yes, that is how big this topic is, Nawar. Okay, so again, and I'm sure that if some of you guys have already studied networks or studied any course of security, you will find this topic at least one complete chapter, or maybe 2-3 complete chapters. Okay, anyway, let's just focus in this. So be back to why DMZ. And I really like this question because it's opened the door that I can do more segmentation with the same device. So I'm creating VLAN from my inside, VLAN from my public service, okay, which means that if I have things that I wanted to show to the entire wallet, I will add it to my DMZ. And I have another VLAN here for the outside, that people I don't trust. Okay, so now makes sense why I created this, because I wanted to limit the effect of someone really compromise one of the servers here, because this service I wanted to open for public. So I will add all this public here. I will allow external users, like users from outside, to reach my web server, but I will limit the damage of someone managed to compromise the server, because he's still not in my internal. If he is in my internal, guys, and he compromised one server, it's a disaster. Khalas, game over. He's really inside your network and he can cause a lot of damage. But here, as we can say limited damage. Until now, limited damage. But you know, the attackers, they are not stoppable. They manage to find a way to also to pivot their attacks from here to the internal. But it's harder than just being an internal and attack internal server. Okay, guys, this is the DMZ.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, let's go back and explain what is firewall. I have a nice definition over here for what firewall is all about. It's going to be a software or hardware component that restrict network communication between 2 computers or 2 networks. So this is, in a very simple way, it's saying that the firewall, you cannot always see firewall as a device, okay? You can see it sometimes as a software. And that's why some of you was asking me about the firewall we have in Windows. This is a software version of firewall. And they're doing the same thing. And also Linux, they have something called IP tables, which is also representing a software version of firewalls. Why? Because end of the day, it's rules written. And the rules written means that I can apply it in software version or a hardware version. Okay, guys, do we agree about this definition? Okay.
Yes.
And the same, you can use it in computers or to between networks or even between a computer and network. Okay. In a building, why the name of firewall? And that is the really nice thing I wanted you guys to remember. Firewall coming from something called like something in building. When you build something, I will add a firewall layer. It will be a fireproof. So if there is a fire inside my building, it will not jump from a room to room to room until it take all down my building. Okay, so this is what a firewall definition. And that's exactly what firewall in network definition is all about. I wanted really to stop all this craziness that's happened in untrusted networks like the internet from spreading inside my network. I want to